Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, time for winter clothing. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, everyone. Good day to you, friends. New subscribers, welcome. I'm glad you're checking this out. Those of you who've been here for a while, all of you, thank you for your practice, your seeking mind, and thanks for being here. Let's get back into the Lankavatara. If you're just here for the first time, please avail yourself of the playlists and the search on the channel. If you go to the home page of this channel, you click on the little round avatar, take you to the home page, and there's a search right in the middle of the page, well, off to the right of the page. Not the top search, because that's all of YouTube, but the search within this channel. And look up terms like karma, chanting, daimoku, gongyo, whatever, what have you. And there are lots of videos on just the rudiments of Buddhism and how Nichiren's doctrine interprets or elucidates Shakyamuni's teachings via the Lotus Sutra and all of the teachings of Buddhism. We're not a sect here. We are practicing Shakyamuni's Buddhism. And so you'll find lots and lots of videos. I think we're moving past 900 videos now, on our way to 1,000, which is incredible to me. But this is a resource for your study. And in the playlist, if the Lotus Sutra is your thing that you want to dive into deeper, there's a Lotus Lectures a playlist that I go through the entire Threefold Lotus Sutra, that is the immeasurable meanings, the Lotus Sutra proper, and the closing sutra, word by word, page by page. And so there's a lot of meat in that playlist. If you're interested in other things, there are other sutras that I have focused on, and then there's all those independent Q&As and what have you. So it's a big resource. We keep building on it. Please familiarize yourself with it. And if you're just the type to just jump on into the middle of things, then welcome to this video, right? Lankavatara Sutra. We're still in chapter 2, which is a third of the book. And we're on part, what is that? 51? Roman numerals. I forget how they work anymore. XLI. At that time, again, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva, said thus to the emancipated one: the chain of origination, the Nidana, as told by you, Shakyamuni, depends on a cause producing an effect, and that it is not a theory established on the principle of a self-originating substance. The philosophers also proclaim a causal origination when they say that all things rise conditioned by a supreme spirit, some creator, which is, God, just thinking about that is so mind-bendingly stupid. But anyway, the rise of condition by a supreme spirit, Ishvara, a personal soul, like there's a Bob, Betty, or Alice roving around in the non-universe and going in the kitchen, oh, I'm going to brew me up a universe. Okay, time, or atom. All of these things are equated by different branches of philosophy, some of whom call themselves scientists, some of them call themselves spiritual leaders, but their mindset, and this is what is being addressed here, is the mindset of an ego. A pre-existing ego, a supreme ego, a provisional ego, a man, woman ego, a soul ego, that everything is very anthropomorphic. It's very, we are men and we made the universe. And you ladies out there have demonstrated how sick you are of that in the world's religions, and it still goes on today. Men jealous of your womb because you can create, quote unquote, life. What's a man gonna do, right? Well, I created the whole universe for you women, so toe the line. It's an insanely juvenile politic that's been around forever and still exists to this day. Yeah, I'm talking to those religions of the world where this continues to go on. It's so ridiculous. How is it that the rise of all things is explained by Shakyamuni, the emancipated one, in another terminology bearing on causation, but in its meaning is no different? Wow, Mahamadi, have you completely missed the boat? What an ignorant question that is, yeah? And still people will ask, how is Buddha, or you worship Buddha, how is Buddha any different from, Islam or Muhammad or Eloah or whatever, right? Because Buddha ain't no man. Buddha is your mind. That's how. Oh, what? Emancipated one. The philosophers explain birth from being and non-being, while, according to you, all things coming into existence from nothingness pass away by causation. Well, I'm not sure about that. That's according to this translator's reading of Chinese translations. The Sanskrit there is apparently an omission. Yeah, because it didn't say that. Anyway, that is to say, let me explain what I mean. The emancipated one has ignorance from which there rises mental confirmation until we reach old age and death. See, he obviously isn't grasping the very core of Buddhism. There's no causation. Causation is formed at the time energy is perturbed, is agitated. Then a process begins, and in that process, tendencies and conditions arise. Read the Nidana. And in those tendencies and conditions, there is momentum. And as soon as there's that kinetic energy, that is causation for further instantiations and amalgams of tendencies and conditions. There it is. It's very well described. Read Julius Evola's book on, what's it called? The Doctrine of Awakening. Excellent book. Old book. But read specifically his chapter on conditioned genesis, explaining the Nidana. Wonderful, wonderful description. And he was not a Buddhist, but he studied it intently. This teaching, Mahamadi continues, as explained by the emancipated one, is the doctrine of no causation and not that of causation. Yes, so he's still struggling with the idea, but at least he's identifying it. According to the emancipated one, That being so, this is, which you could say is probably a feeble translation of suchness, or a quote taken out of context, yeah? If this is simultaneous conditionality and not successive mutuality, it is not right. By whose opinion? There, Shakyamuni, the philosopher's teaching excels, and not yours. Why? I mean, this guy is pretty bold-faced, yeah? The cause assumed by the philosophers is not dependent upon the chain of origination and produces effects. Yeah, screw the Nidana. There's a creator, and that justifies everything. But, emancipated one, your cause has reference to its effect and the effect to its cause, and thus there is an interconnection of causal links, and from this mutuality follows the fault of non-finality. When people talk about that being so, this is, there is a state of causelessness. Yeah, you just can't buy it. There has to be a creator. Intelligent design, whatever name you want to put to it. Right? And at its root, I'm telling you, it's man competing with woman. It's man saying, see how powerful I am, you breeder, you. I mean, it's so insanely juvenile. So Shakyamuni replies, not so, Mahamati. Mine is not a causeless theory of causation, which results in an endless interconnection of causes and conditions. I speak of that being so, this is, because of my seeing into the nature of the external world, which is nothing but self-mind, and because of its unreality of grasped object and grasping subject. However, Mahamati, when people clinging to the notion of grasped and grasping fail to understand the world as something seen of the mind itself, and Mahamati, by them the fault is committed as they recognize the external world as real with its beings and non-beings, but not by my theory of causation. Shakyamuni is trying to remind this stubborn monk that everything he's perceiving, even his illusions about a creator, are all in his mind. This is where everything takes place, in our experience. Just because we experience something does not mean that it, whatever it is, exists of its own nature. Go back to the fountain analogy. There's no denial in the fountain analogy that there is a fountain. But the interesting part of that analogy is that everyone who sees or doesn't see it or misses it does not condition the fountain. What they condition is their experience of the fountain. And that is our experience of life. And Buddhism is about getting that experience in line with real reality, the process as it is, rather than as it's conceived and constructed in the individual mind. Mahamati just can't deal. Further, Mahamati, he goes on to say, emancipated one, is it not because of the reality of words that all things are? If not for words, emancipated one, there would be no rising of things. Hence, blessed one, or emancipated one, The existence of all things is by reason of the reality of words. Now, who amongst us isn't going, what in the hell are you talking about? So back to the fountain analogy. The fountain only exists because we have a word to label it. If we didn't have the word fountain, what would we call it? It wouldn't exist. What, would it just blink out of existence because we don't have a word for it? Do you see how insanely circular and stupid this is? I mean, we're trained this way when we're little babies and children, right? We're told this is that, this is that, this is that. Wait, don't stop pointing and going, Say, I want that. I want burger. I want onion. I want, label it, own it, be with it. If you can't say the word, then you don't get anything, right? That's how we're trained. It's kind of stupid because we evolved from that, but Mahamati hasn't. So Shakyamuni responds very patiently. Even when there are no corresponding objects, there are words, Mahamati. For instance, the hare's horns, the tortoise's hair, a barren woman's child, etc. Right? We have words for things that aren't things. They're experiences. They're conjured in the mind. Like, there goes an elephant bird. You can say that. Does that instantiate an elephant with wings in the sky? Maybe in a cartoon. Right? They are not, I guess it's no accident that I've stumbled into Dumbo the elephant there. They are not at all visible in the world, but the words are. Mahamati, they are neither entities nor non-entities, but expressed in words. If, Mahamati, you say that because of the reality of words the objects are, this talk lacks in sense. Right? It's nonsense. Words are not known in all the Buddha lands. Words, Mahamati, are an artificial creation. Of course they are. They're labels we've invented to label things so we can own them mentally. In some Buddha lands, ideas are indicated by looking steadily. Just by looking. In others, by gestures, right? In still others, a frown, by movement of the eyes, by laughing, by yawning, or by the clearing of the throat, or by recollection, or by trembling. Mahamati, for instance, in the worlds of steady looking and in those of exquisite odors, and in the Buddha land of Samantabhadra, the Tathagata, fully enlightened one, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, by steadily looking without a wink, attained the recognition of all things as unborn and also various most excellent samadhis. For this reason, Mahamati, the validity of all things has nothing to do with the reality of words. It is observed, Mahamati, even in this world, that in the kingdom of such special beings as ants, bees, etc., they carry on their works without words. Thus it is said, as space, the hare's horns, and a barren woman's child are non-entities except as expressed in words, so it is existence imagined. When causes and conditions are in combination, the ignorant imagine the birth of this world. As they fail to understand this reason, they wander about in the triple world, which is their dwelling. Live in imagination, falling through life, hitting every branch. How many ways can we say it, right? At that time, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, again said to the emancipated one, he's never short on words, this guy. Emancipated one, again, this old English interludes in the Suzuki, what are you smoking? Anyway, where dost thou pronounce sound to be eternal? Okay, that came out of left field. So Shakyamuni replies, according to error, Mahamati, since even to the wise there is this error, only that they are free from perversion. Mahamati, it is like the unwitted in the world who conceive a perverted idea regarding a mirage, a firebrand wheel, a hairnet, the city of the Gandharvas, Maya, a dream, a reflected image, and an Akshapurusha. But with the knowing, it is not so. Though it does not mean that those illusions do not appear to them. When Mahamati there is this error, diversities of forms are seen, though to this error the idea of impermanence is inapplicable. Why? Because it cannot be characterized with the ideas of being and non-being. Again, Mahamati, how are the ideas of being and non-being inapplicable to this error? Because all the ignorant take in varieties of situations, like the waves of the ocean and the waters of the Ganges, which are not seen by the pretas, but seen by others. For this reason, Mahamati, the error existence of this world of illusion is not, but as this water is manifest to other people, it is not a non-existence either. Thus, to the wise, the error is neither a perversion nor a non-perversion, and for this reason, Mahamati, the error in itself is characterized with permanency. Having the nature of non-distinction as far as its own appearance is concerned. So that's a justification that it is, simply because I can label it and you can't see it, that makes it so. I mean, this is really some messed up imagination. Oh, ego. It's all ego. Mahamati, being discriminated as regards its diversified individual signs, the error is perceived as differentiated. And if you can differentiate something, then it definitely exists, right? Thus, the error, as far as its own nature is concerned, is characterized with permanency. Because you can't make it non-permanent, right? Right? Let's not prove there's a God. Let's just prove that you can't prove that there isn't a God. And that makes a God so. It's a really juvenile argument. It has no substance. Again, Mahamati, how is the error to be considered reality? Mahamati, for this reason, that as regards the error, the wise cherish neither a perverted knowledge nor an unperverted knowledge, because it isn't knowledge at all. It is such as it is, and not otherwise. In case, Mahamati, the wise should cherish any thought whatever in this error, it goes contrary to the reality attainable by noble wisdom, right? Penetrating knowledge, there's nothing to penetrate. If there is anything at all here, it is the prattling of the ignorant. It is not the talk of the wise. Wham! Again, when the error is discriminated according to a perverted and an unperverted view, it gives rise to two classes of family, one of which is the family of the wise, and the other the family of the ignorant and simple-minded. Now, Mahamati, the family of the wise is divisible into three kinds, that is, the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and the Buddhas. Mahamati, how does the Shravakyana family rise from the discriminations whereby the ignorant conceive the error? Mahamati, there is the rise of the Shravakyana family where the attachment to the notions of individuality and generality is kept up. It's the ego again, right? This is the way, Mahamati. This error gives rise to the Shravakyana family. Mahayana, how does the Pratyeka Buddhayana family rise as the error is discriminated? Mahamati, when in this error, the attachment to the notions of individuality, of generality, leads one to a retirement from social life, there rises the Pratyeka Buddhayana family. Like, if I just run away from it, it'll all be okay. Mahamati, how is there the rise of the Buddhayana family when this error is discriminated by the intelligent? Mahayana, when the world is understood to be nothing but mind itself, the existence and non-existence of external objects ceases to be discriminated, and there is the rise of the Buddhayana family. Mahamati, this is the family, that is what is meant by the family. Again, Mahamati. Now I'm going to pause here for a second. Do not get the false idea, as many do, that as Shakyamuni is discussing this, or the emancipated one is discussing this, he's saying that everything... See, if you take it simply, literally, and say everything is an illusion, nothing exists, then you've missed the teaching entirely. And many see people uneducated in Chan or Zen would make that statement, that nothing really exists. Everything is a mental cognition. But that's absolutely inaccurate. That's missing the point entirely. And I will remind you again, Buddhism is about the mind. There is no denial of body. In fact, it's explicitly called out as one of the bodies of Buddha-ness. There's always a relationship between mind and body includes not only your arms, legs, and head, torso, and so forth. It includes the chair you might be sitting on, the ground you're standing on, the clothing you're wearing, the room that you're in, the buildings, the trees, the other people. That is the body. And the mind is the great perceiver, experiencer of this incredible, endless manifestations of potentials which we are in. This is the description of life in Buddhism. And when he says that the Buddhayana family sees that nothing exists but in the mind itself, he doesn't say existence. He says, when the world is understood to be nothing but mind itself, the existence and non-existence of external objects ceases to be discriminated. The separation of self and other, this and that, becomes irrelevant. It's still there, but it's the relation to it. It's the holding on to it, the loss of it. It's stress and anxiety of our relationship and attachment to discriminations that ends because it has no reason. It isn't rational. It's a provisional illusion of possession. Again, Mahamati, when the error is discriminated by the ignorant, there is the manifestation of varieties of objects which calls forth the assertion on their part that this is so and not otherwise. Whence rises the family of the transmigration vehicle. For this reason, Mahamati, the error is discriminated by the ignorant as characterized by multitudinous. And this error is neither a reality nor an unreality. It's imagined. Thus, Mahamati, this error being discriminated by the wise, turns into tatata, understanding suchness with them, by virtue of a revulsion which takes place in them concerning the Sita, Mana, Manovijnanas, false reasoning, habit energy, the three Shvavatas, and the five Dharmas. Thus, Mahamati, there is this statement that the Tatata is mind emancipated. Mahamati, the meaning of this statement is here thus clearly expressed by me. That is, by the discarding of discriminations is meant the abandonment of all discriminations. So much for this statement. And after all that, Mahamati still has something to say. He's incredible. So Mahamati says, is the error an entity or not? Oh my gosh. How deluded must you be? Is the error, you make an error. The error, of course, occurs in your mind. You realize the error in your mind. Does that mean that the error itself is an entity? How do you make that leap? This is truly magical thinking, and we're in a world of people with magical thinking. That is the modus operandi of most of the craziness we see in our world today. And here it is in the Lankavatara. So Shakyamuni replies, it is like Maya, Mahamati. The error has no character in it making for attachment. If, Mahamati, the error had any character in it making for attachment, no liberation would be possible from the attachment to existence. The chain of origination would be understood in the sense of creation as held by the philosophers. You're making something, an entity, an other, out of nothing. Out of your own mental cognition, you're creating magic, magical thinking. I thought it, therefore elephant flies. It's a real thing, forever. What are you doing? Indeed. What are these religions doing today but promoting, causing, and focused on misery? Their goal is the annihilation of humanity. You do realize that, yeah? And it's because of this kind of sick logic. I'm going to start ranting. I better stop. Mahamati's no short of words. He's coming back. Well, emancipated one, if the error is like Maya, it will thereby be the cause of another error. The emancipated one says, no, Mahamati. Maya cannot be the cause of the error because of its incapability of producing evils and faults. And thus, Mahamati, Maya does not give rise to evil thoughts and faults. It isn't an entity. Again, Mahamati, Mahayana, or Maya, has no discrimination of itself. It rises when invoked by the magical, I love it, by the magical charm of a certain person. right? A dream doesn't exist by itself. It's an activity of your mind. It has no ego. That's like believing that if you just walk fast enough to get to that pool of water in the middle of the desert, a mirage, that even if it's not there, you can dive into it and bask in the freshness of the water. It's not there. It has in itself no habit energy of evil thoughts and faults that, issuing from the self-discrimination, affect it. Therefore, there are no faults in it. There is only, due to the confused view fondly cherished by the ignorant regarding mind, and the wise have nothing to do with it. So it is said, the wise do not see the error, nor is there any truth in its midst. If truth is in its midst, then the error would be truth. If there is the rising of individual forms apart from all error, this will indeed be error. The defiled is like darkness. You basically shut down your mind. So now you're just going to be a slave to your magic. Whew. Further, Mahamati, Maya is not an unreality because it has the appearance of reality, and all things have the nature of Maya. So he's saying the dream can't perform based on a self-nature. It is a conjured thing in your mind. But it's also not real because you're experiencing it. But if you live in that dream, accept it as truth and real, then your mind is just shut down. You're living in darkness. And the product of darkness we can witness all over the world today, yeah? When truth means nothing, so on and so forth. You know the drill. Further, Mahamati, Maya is not an unreality because it has the appearance of reality, and all things have the nature of Maya. All things have this nature of conjuring. The fountain analogy, once again. Everyone has their perception conditioned by their tendencies and conditions. The freight train of karma. What was that? I was going to change freight train to something else, wasn't I? That momentum of karma, yeah. Well, here comes Mahamati, right back at him. Is it, emancipated one, that all things are like Maya because Maya is something imagined and clung to as having multitudinousness of individual forms? Or is it due to the incorrect imagining of individual forms? If all things have the likeness of Maya because Maya is something imagined and clung to as having multitudinous of individual forms, then see, emancipated one, things are not like Maya. Why? Because forms are seen in the multitudinous of individual signs, not without due causes. This guy is trying to prove to Shakyamuni that if you can imagine it, then it can be real. Because you imagine it as real, then it has a real function in your life. Well, yeah, if you want to believe in magic, but that doesn't make it real. That means you're psycho. Let's go on. What an argument. Because forms are seen in the multitudinous of individual signs not without due causes, if they appear without due causes, assuming the multitudinous of individual signs and shapes, then they would be like Maya. For this reason, emancipated one, that things are like Maya is not because they, i.e. all things and Maya, are both alike in being imagined and clung to as having multitudinousness of individual signs. Said the emancipated one, it is not, Mahamati, that all things are Maya, because they are both alike in being imagined and clung to as having multitudinousness of individual signs, but that all things are like Maya because they are unreal and like a lightning flash which is seen as quickly as disappearing. Moment to moment, right? The manifestation moment to moment. Mahamati, a lightning appears and disappears in quick succession as is manifest to the ignorant. In the same way, Mahamati, all things assume individuality and generality according to the discrimination of the mind itself. When the state of imagelessness is recognized, objects which are imagined and clung to as in possession of individual signs cease to assert themselves. I would say thusly. Thus it is said, Maya is not without reality because it has something resembling it. The reality of all things is talked of in a similar manner. They are unreal, like a lightning flash appearing and disappearing quickly, and therefore they are regarded as resembling Maya. He's explaining his explanation. I need something to drink. I think, because now Mahamati's going to go on, I think I'm going to pause here and we'll restart with part XLV, which I believe is 55. L is 40, right? So we'll continue with this mañana. But you see the futility of this argument is Mahamati insists that if you can imagine it, then it is real. And if it is real, there's no difference between it and real. And therefore, it is of its own conditions and can make causes. He's just turned vapor into reality. And people do this all the time. And I can understand if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I get that. But understand what it is you're submitting your mind to if you think that Mahamati has a real argument here. Because he's trying to argue for magical thinking, for the thinking that things that are imagined are real, because Shakyamuni is saying the things that you imagine are real are actually empty. But they're not talking about the same thing or from opposite ends. Don't get confused here. What Shakyamuni is constantly identifying is that our stresses and anxieties are the result of our possessing things which are occurring moment to moment. They're existing, certainly. But if you understand, if you dissect with your mind and understand that everything is a process happening, energies manifest in certain conditions and tendencies, and that in that mechanism, that process, they arise and they have an appearance and all the 10 factors and right? All of those things we chant in Gangyo, that everything is a process of energies assembling and disassembling, and we too are that process. Then there's an equanimity of everything going through this process. Then the idea that we can take a moment and possess it through time is an illusion. It's empty. Those previous moments don't come along with this moment. This moment is a new moment. The previous moments are something attached in our minds, like memory, but you can't grab a memory and make it real. You can't remember your first kiss and experience it as though it's real. You can only imagine it, recall it, and try to experience. But even your experience now of that memory is not what that experience was in some previous moment. It's just an illusory habit energy. But then to go further and say that it can produce causes, that your memory can make other things happen, that's a step wildly crazy. You know it's a memory, it's an imagined, it's a recall of habit energies that you now would like to reinstantiate, but of course, now it would be different. We all know this. We're logical beings, right? But this is the argument that's going on here. Mahamadi is insisting that these activities of the mind, if they are what Shakyamuni is talking about as the illusion of everything, well, then that they have their own personification. That's ridiculousness. That's magical thinking. That's misunderstanding completely that what Shakyamuni is talking about is the mind's activity, not this activity. That our mind's experience of this is what he's talking about, not this. Do you understand? Mahamadi doesn't. What Mahamadi is suggesting is that this pen could just get up on its own and start doing stuff. It's a Disney film going on in its head. Yeah, we live in a world of that kind of thinking. And so it's not entirely unfamiliar to us, is it? It's all around us. But you must distinguish the difference. In your own life, certainly. In other words, understand the emotions and struggles that you face in daily life are not real. You experience them as real, but that is a choice. That is your mind at work, making the dream real. And this is what Shakyamuni is pointing to. If you can divorce your attachment from the activity, that's not to say that you're not experiencing negative things, but it is to say that you don't have to attach your very existence to it. It's not a denial of things being great or bad or difficult. It's a perspective that understands that this is the process of life, and your karmic tendencies and conditions are bringing these things about, and this is a window. This is an opportunity for you to ameliorate your experience of that karmic momentum. This is a powerful place to be in, and it is in the mind. Buddha-ness. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Thank you for all your efforts. Thank you for your steadfast resolve and practice. Thank you for supporting this channel. Like, subscribe, support if you can. Patreon, PayPal. Let's grow this Sangha. Let's get more people to stop thinking magically and join the real life of living the universe. Yeah. Thanks again. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye for now. Take care of yourself. Always.